Breakthroughs are a useful way in order to create a passed pawn in chess. In this example, the white pawn on a5 is a passed pawn because there is no opposing pawn stopping it from reaching the 8th rank. Also, the pawn on c4 is a passed pawn because there is no black pawn or no opposing pawn preventing it from reaching the 8th rank. The white pawn on e6 is also a passed pawn. The white pawn on g3 is not a passed pawn because there is a black pawn preventing it to move freely or unopposed to the 8th rank. If it moves up, black is free to capture it. And finally, the white pawn on h6 is not a passed pawn because there is a black pawn blocking its path and it's not allowed to move freely to the 8th rank. So a passed pawn in chess is when you have a pawn and there's no opposing pawns in its way to prevent it from moving to the 8th rank. So what is a breakthrough and why are they important? Breakthroughs allow you to break through your opponent's defense. So it allows you to break through your opponent's pawns and allows you then to create a passed pawn so that you can get your pawn to the 8th rank and get promoted. So in this example, we are going to be looking at trying to create a breakthrough for white so it can get his pawn to the 8th rank and promote one of its pawns to a queen. In order to do this, white is going to sacrifice 2 white pawns to create a passed pawn. Why not set up your board and see can you achieve a breakthrough for white, or keep watching for a solution. In this example, the only winning move for white is to move the b pawn. This forces black to capture it. If black does not capture the b pawn, then white will simply capture one of the pawns and move freely to the 8th rank. So black has to capture the pawn. At first look, it looks like that the black and white pawns will capture each other, resulting in no breakthrough. But white has a trick up its sleeve. As we said, black has to take the b pawn. Black might decide to capture with its a7 pawn, freeing up the a file. However, there is still a problem. Black's b7 pawn is stopping white's a pawn from moving freely. It is still not a passed pawn. It still cannot get to the 8th rank without being captured. So here's our trick. If we move the c pawn, creating that little square, we put black into a dilemma. If black decides to capture the c pawn, the a file is free to move forward, creating our passed pawn, allowing us to get a promotion or allow us to promote our pawn to a queen. If black decides to capture the a pawn instead, that allows white to capture the b7 pawn, creating a passed pawn. And its next move is move forward, promote itself to a queen and close out the game. So let's look at this one more time. The only winning move for white is to move the b pawn. Black is forced to capture it. Let's say this time black decides to capture it with the pawn on the c file. This leaves the c file free, but the b7 pawn is still in the way. Now, in order to create a breakthrough, we must create a dilemma for black, and we do this by moving the pawn on the a side this time, creating that little square. If black decides to capture the c pawn, that allows white to capture the b7 pawn and move in for a queen in its next move. And if the black decides to capture the a pawn, that allows the c pawn to move forward, creating a passed pawn, and eventually reach the 8th rank and get promoted. So that's why breakthroughs are very important. It is very useful to create a passed pawn. It is very useful in games, and it helps you think ahead in the game of chess and plan your next moves. Why not check out some of our puzzles and try and find a breakthrough on your board?